Hello everybody, this is Stephen Howson. This is the warm down. This is now a regular Monday night podcast. It's audio, it's video, so if you're on the YouTube channel, obviously you are sitting here watching it now. Aiming to get these out every single Monday night, but they're also available on iTunes if you just prefer the audio. There's not really much comment interaction on these ones. We're just pretty much sitting down with one of our mates that's a bit of a YouTube influencer themselves and having a conversation about the weekend's games. This is available on iTunes, Castbox if you're one of those Android weirdos, and also Stitcher as well this week. So today I am delighted to be joined by one of my mates, Statman Dave, aka Statman Daddy, aka Big Daddy Cool, aka whatever else we want to throw at him. How's it going, mate?
Yeah, decent. It's interesting that you slag off your audience before the podcast starts, but different people have different approaches, and I think it's absolutely fine, Howson.
They are aware of this. Their nickname is the Motherfuckers, so they're used to this sort of shit. This is why they're here, David. Get it twisted. So anyway, thank you everybody for joining us. Actually, before we get started, loads of people are like, "Ooh, there's a beef between Howson and Dave," in the comments on YouTube. Like, Dave's my mate.
Let's leave it. Let's leave the beef, Howson. Let's get the stories going.
We fucking travel around Europe together. I take the piss out of him because I like him. If I didn't like him, I'd just be like,
I'm bored.
So anyway, yes, we've had a fucking belting weekend. As United fans, obviously, we've had an absolutely belting weekend of football this weekend. Pretty much couldn't have asked it to go much better, I don't think. What do you reckon?
No, I think it's absolutely perfect. City losing in the FA Cup. Pep Guardiola, like that tweet that you did, that absolutely banged. Not winning a silverware in his first season at Manchester City, could finish fifth in the Premier League. It's an interesting one, and then the Liverpool result was huge. Sam Allardyce again doing a massive favour to Manchester United and Mourinho. What a performance from Crystal Palace! But Liverpool looked so poor in the last few weeks without obviously Sadio Mane's work and ability to press, but also as an attacking intent. Scored the most goals for Liverpool in the Prem. Liverpool looked like a shade of their former selves at the start of the season, so it's geared on for United to take this fourth space.
Maybe even third, actually.
Maybe even third.
Watching Liverpool yesterday, I didn't think. Going forward, I thought there's always a goal in them. But it was defensively, I just thought they could concede at any moment. And it's weird watching a team that's so open like they are going forward, that's had such lofty ambitions being the way they are. And a manager that I thought was a lot better than what he's showing at the moment in Jurgen Klopp. Just almost like he's not asked about defending and he thinks he can outscore them. And like you said, without Mane, they don't look that deadly on the break, and he's fucking wonderful footballer, let's face it.
Yeah, he's a good player.
But they look so poor. Benteke yesterday, it was easy for him.
But also with Benteke, you look at that Liverpool side, what did they lack? They lacked a Benteke type of focal point. When they can't break these teams down, they need someone that's a bit bigger, that's going to be different to the likes of Firmino and Origi. Origi was absolutely atrocious against Crystal Palace, but it kind of flipped on the whole Liverpool team were quite poor. I thought Coutinho scored a wonderful free kick, went on a few wonderful mazy runs, but he still has that consistent issue that he always looks for the shot when the pass is on. Did you see the penalty incident that, oh yeah, it was a penalty because he didn't go down and all that rubbish? But surely he's got to square that, right? Surely he's got to find his teammate inside the penalty area that's pretty much got an open goal.
Yeah, I also have to give some props to Sam Allardyce as well, who's doing a belting job since he's turned up at Crystal Palace. Didn't think he was going to do it. Maybe they should consider him for England.
I think with Allardyce, it's something that I mentioned before. Allardyce takes a while to get his method of football across, but when it's across, it's very, very effective. His first 8 games, I think they picked up 1 win. In these second 8 games, they've won 75% of those, 6 out of 8. They've scored 14 goals. They've kept 4 clean sheets. So one of these things where it just takes time for him to get his organisation down, and something that potentially other managers should take on board. Being pragmatic, like the likes of Pep Guardiola needs to be a little bit more pragmatic. And Sam Allardyce is the ultimate pragmatist in the Premier League. He's shown that with every single team he's managed, and it's effective. It's so effective, so simple as well. The set piece that won the game, it's incredible.
There was the confidence that I sort of had. Even Liverpool at home, right? It is a thing that you don't often see as well. Like the bigger team taking the lead at home and then not just losing the lead, but losing the match as well. I didn't feel like Liverpool was going to see that game out. I was watching it thinking, Palace are always in this, and then when Palace went up, I was like, I think that's game over, because even a draw for these, the position everybody's in that top 4 at the moment is a fucking great result. So I was just happy, watching the last 10 minutes or so play out. I was just chilling, this is a belting result, even if they get equalising out.
You were doing your research for that tweet, mate. You were thinking, you were dreaming up. It took you a whole 10 minutes to come up with that rubbish.
So, yes, and we've touched a little on Pep Guardiola there. we are going to talk about him massively with the game coming up this Thursday, the huge game between United and City, as it always is. But who'd have thought United and City would have been scrapping for 4th and 5th? I actually, at the start of the season, I'm more than once on record saying that I thought United was going to push for the title. Don't think I was on my own. A lot of people, as you saw last night,
I was on that as well,
the quote tweeting I was doing, that thought Guardiola was going to not just win the Premier League, but win everything else in sight as well with Manchester City. How's it ended up that we're scrapping for 4th and 5th?
I think it's a combination between both managers being a little bit different to their predecessor. Going from Louis van Gaal to Mourinho is pretty much like the complete opposite on the football spectrum. One manager that likes possession-based, slow football, kind of you're going to press from the top, you're going to force your opponent into a mistake and you're going to score. To Mourinho that's sitting back and hitting teams on the counter-attack. That's a big flip. But similarly to Manchester City, I think they've got a lot to blame, like the people behind Guardiola, the director of football, the crew that they bought in from Barcelona a few seasons ago, because they've always had the idea of bringing Pep Guardiola in. That's always been their plan. It's so evident in every single move that they've made. But it seems like they've built this squad and it doesn't suit Pep. They don't have quality fullbacks. Every single one of Pep's teams have had good fullbacks because he needs good fullbacks to stretch the opposition, down the pitch, creating that width. And it seems like City
Pep Guardiola's had 2 transfer windows. He spent more than Manchester United did in the summer, and he also had January to address it. And I don't think that they're working on a budget. I think that if he really went and said, I really need this, then he would have been able to get that in January. And he also, the major one that you can point to him is getting rid of Joe Hart and bringing in Bravo for the errors that Bravo has led to goals. Now, that's got to be on Guardiola. That's got to be a black mark against his name.
But on the flip side of that, honestly, you're getting Claudio Bravo, who was one of the best goalkeepers in world football last season. For him his confidence is just shot. Obviously it's an interesting one, how bad his confidence has gone. I never expected that in a million years. I've never seen a player fall from grace, but similar to that, Andre Gomez at Barcelona, a player that was regarded very highly at the Euros, played very well for Valencia the season before. At Barca, confidence gone. It's just different places sometimes break players, and that's exactly what happened to Bravo. But you also, on the flip side, Joe Hart hasn't had the greatest season at Torino. Torino, in terms of defensive errors, I think only one other player in the whole of the competition has made more. So it's not really. I think that he could have worked on Joe Hart. That's the thing that really gets me, is that Joe Hart has the confidence on the ball and has the confidence to back himself. That it seems like that Pep went, instead of the long-term coaching plan, which kind of it's now fallen into that strategy, that he's going to have to coach all these players to play a system. None of these players fall into the Pep Guardiola model. Even players like David Silva have taken a period of adjustment. But now he's got a keeper that's got no confidence, a keeper that he could have worked with, Joe Hart, who I feel could have played the role for him perfectly at the back as a ball player. Now he's gone. You work on that one issue with Joe Hart, that the near post. I think it's on his left side that he just seems to just catch him out. Shots from outside the area, he gets nowhere near it. That's one technical issue. You could argue concentration-wise, he could work on that as well. And the ball at his feet. That's 3 things he could have coached out there. And it was very lazy to sign someone like Bravo. Getting someone like ter Stegen, that's what I thought was going to happen, and that would have made sense. But getting Bravo, an instant option that should have come in and done well, and he didn't do well. It's an issue from both Pep Guardiola, but also from Manchester City's transfer policy in that summer window. And kind of on the flip side of your January quote, I'm not sure that they could have got a good level, a good quality fullback. Is Wan Bernat going to leave Bayern Munich when they're still in the Champions League and they are looking pretty good? Probably not. He's probably the only left fullback I could really see fitting in.
You don't only have to look at your 5-star teams around the world for players, though. There are top players around the world playing outside of that you can pick up.
I just think that fullback area for Pep Guardiola, they have to be such specifically good players. It's kind of, maybe it's another thing that's against Pep Guardiola's system, that it is so geared to the fullbacks.
He's playing fucking Navas at right back at the moment, so
that kind of sums it up, right? He's played Fernandinho there, Zabaletta's played there, Sagna's played there. He's probably going to play Yaya Toure there before the end of the season. It seems so strange. Like, just stick with one. I quite like the Fernandinho one. It made a little bit of sense. Fernandinho is a very, very good player on the ball. It could have worked out, but he tried it and then he just threw it away. And it seems like Pep Guardiola this season, he's making a lot of mistakes that he hasn't done in his career. So again, you've got to blame the manager's definitely got some criticism to take. The other big one as well, why aren't we playing either Silva or De Bruyne? Why is it both of them? For me, that doesn't work. You need to play one or the other, and not playing a front three that includes Sane and Sterling. Again, it's a stupid use of his resource. It's just one of these things where it seems like he's too in his own style, is in his own philosophy, and needs to open himself up a little bit and understand what he did so well at Barcelona, that was the pinnacle at world football. He played with 2 wide players. Pedro and Villa were instructed to stay as wide as possible. And the only players that can do that at City, Sterling and Sane, and it seems like Sterling's just been dropped after having a pretty decent season in my eyes.
They're a very top-heavy side, though, but they are top-heavy in terms of not just talent and ability, but top-heavy in terms of like all of their best players, apart from, I would argue, company, but can't be relied upon for more than 1 week to the next whether he's going to be fit or not. All of their best players, and obviously Gundogan, but he signs an injury-prone midfielder and then like wonders why he got injured. It's fucking nuts.
Like, the second time in his career after doing it with Thiago, right?
Yeah, all of these players that they've got, they're very good players. That's where I think I look at the derby and I go, can we keep them quiet? Can we score on them? Absolutely. But can we keep them quiet? That's what I have to ask. And I think we was in the derby game at home, yes, they beat us, but I think that the result doesn't tell the tale of that game. They was extremely fortunate. We had the Jesse Lingard and Ibra fuck up right on the stroke of half time, which would have equalised it, I think, at the time. It was an extremely close game. You had Bravo 2-footing Wayne Rooney, which everyone completely forgets about.
Yeah.
The game could have gone so differently, and I think Jose Mourinho has learned, and we've seen that the players are definitely buying into the tactical impetus that Jose Mourinho's putting on. We saw the brilliant performance against Chelsea. I would expect United to line up in a very similar way, possibly 3 at the back, 5 in the middle, and 2 up front, or one and someone in a bit of a free role like Jesse Lingard against City on Thursday. How do you reckon we'll line up? Similar.
I think it's similar to that. I think it's an interesting one with the first game. I think I kind of agree the game was quite even in terms of the big chances, but I think United got massively caught out in a tactical sense with they didn't deal with De Bruyne and Silva. They rotated that 3-8 thing where they were getting behind Pogba and Fellaini. Again, it was a weird midfield.
The first half and the second half are 2 different games of football. But I was impressed, and I don't think anyone really mentioned it in the press because he was too busy wanking Pep off. But I was impressed with how the United and Mourinho addressed what we saw. We was completely overrun in the first half, and in the second half he brings on Herrera, who did a fantastic job and actually stopped a lot of City's attack. And then I don't know if it was at half time or later in the game, he brings Marcus Rashford on the left hand side, who's extremely direct, and I thought that was where United was getting a lot of our chances. And obviously Marcus had the opportunity, in fact it was a ruled out goal, wasn't it, with Zlatan getting in the way of it.
Again, I think it's how you set up against City and how you deal with them. I think one of the things that they've caught out when they play this, when they play the 2-3-8, when they play a 4-3-3, which they've moved away from recently, they've gone to the 2 defensive midfielders and a 4-2-3-1. But to get at that 4-3-3, it is direct, dribbling directly through the middle, which you want to see someone like Mkhitaryan there. You want to see someone like Marcus Rashford playing as the striker, where it actually suits playing either Marcus Rashford or Martial as a striker over playing Ibrahimovic, because you want to be able to commit these players, draw them in, get Yaya Toure, get Fernandinho on a yellow card. But I think this City team, it can be attacked, and if United do deal with their assets in the likes of, it's going to be a massive game for whoever's going to play left back, whether it's Darmian or it's Shaw, potentially looking like Shaw considering he wasn't selected for the weekend's game.
Yeah, I think that was a tactical rest-in rather than a drop-in.
Yeah, there was stuff about the last as well with Shaw. He played all of extra time he had a slight injury. There's some Mourinho quotes where he's saying credit to Luke Shaw for doing that. So I think Shaw, Valencia up against Leroy Sane. I think the thing with Leroy Sane, he's very, very good going forward, but there's an option there to stretch Manchester City on that right hand side. If you're committing him defensively, we saw the big game against Chelsea where in fact he was playing as a wing back, kept on getting caught when the balls were put behind him into the channel. So that's one where you could target Manchester City's definitely at sort of United's right back and City's left back. If that's going forward and they can create a 2v1 there with Henrik Mkhitaryan, could be quite nice. I think United potentially should go with a 4-3-3, but again, might be the 4-2-3-1.
Yeah, I also think it could potentially be 3 at the back with some fullbacks played as centre halves. I think we saw Darmian filling it as a left centre half. I think that would be an option for Mourinho in the circumstances that we find ourselves in, and potentially Luke Shaw as a wing back. I think that's not a bad option. You're looking slightly defensive minded, but I think you've got an attacking outlet there in someone who's really directing Luke Shaw. The right-hand side, Tony Valencia, he starts happy days and he just keeps looking at Sterling. Every time Sterling gets the ball, Sterling shits himself and doesn't have a good game. But I do think that you've got a problem as who else you play alongside Baye. I think if you're playing 3 centre-halves, you can play Daley Blind, because I don't think 3 centre-halves are getting caught out quite so easily. Baye has to start if he's fit. The nightmare scenario is what's happened with Rojo, because prior to Rojo and Baye sort of forming that centre-half partnership, in my head, I was liking it, but I was thinking, in execution, is this going to be too much hot sauce? Is there going to be too crazy out of both of these? But actually, both of them have sort of come together really maturely. and are playing excellent as a centre-half partnership, one obviously being the left side, one being the right-hand side. It looks like Rojo's now out for 8 months, so not even just this game on Thursday. Are United going to buy in the summer, do you think? Do we need to buy? Because people are saying, oh, now's the time to throw in Fosu Mensah or Axel Tuanzebe. Not a fucking prayer is Mourinho doing that on Thursday.
No, I don't think it's... I think it's too important, unfortunately, to play these. I think both of these players are supremely talented and they will be absolute successes at United. But I think if he's going to throw them in, it would have been at the weekend against Burnley. I think we would have seen Tuanzebe or we would have seen Timothy play centre-half then. And because he went with Blind, and I like what Blind did. I like what Blind is as a centre-half. I think he gives United great balance when, like you're saying, the likes of Jones, Rojo,
he's vocal,
Smalling.
Isn't he? He's a very good organiser, if not physically intimidating.
But again, he's very good on the ground and he's very composed. We saw against Andre Gray at the weekend that he stood off at the right time. He made, Andre Gray is rapid, absolutely rapid, but Blind didn't have a problem. I think there was one moment where he span him when he was out left back and Bay dealt with the ball that came in. Apart from that, it was perfect. But again, it was the use of Marouane Fellaini in a tactical sense, playing a bit deeper and basically blocking off that direct ball to Ashley Barnes, which isn't going to be what City do. So it's who you play at defensive midfield or who you play as a protection to Blind and Bay, because I don't think Mourinho would want them to be exposed. But do you go with Ander Herrera? Do you go with Michael Carrick? It looks like it's going to be Carrick, which could be a good option because Carrick has been quite good in derbies in recent years. But again,
But do you play both? Because I think you've got to play both. I think you've got to play Ander Herrera for the bite. I think you've got to play Michael Carrick for his experience and his protection. I think what he offers is a little bit more polished than what you're going to get out of Fellaini as well.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you're going to need in this sort of game. City are very fast, very agile, and I think against teams like this is where... he did a fantastic job, actually, on the likes of Hazard against Chelsea, though. But it just feels like this is the sort of game where Fellaini's going to look like he's clumsier than he actually is because of how slick, small, and agile that City midfield and attack is. I
think if you deal with... I honestly think I wouldn't play Carrick. I'd rather have Ander Herrera in there for, like you mentioned, his mobility and his ability to cover ground. Because then I honestly think Marouane Fellaini is a better option than Michael Carrick, because I'd like to play Herrera a bit deeper. Because when Carrick plays, United are a little bit slow in their transition. He's not as incisive as Ander Herrera is. You see the 2 goals that he's created in the bigger games, the ball to Mkhitaryan and, of course, the ball to Rashford against Chelsea. I quite like that, directness. And I think that this United team that is going towards being more counter-attacking, Carrick is slightly too slow these days in terms of his passing. It is a little bit too safe. It's not going to be like an incisive ball. Carrick's going to be racking 90% pass accuracy. Herrera at defensive midfield at times against these bigger sides is around 70% because he's looking for the balls, and I think United need that. But the big question is Paul Pogba going to be fit?
Who knows? Was he sitting down at the end in protest? Was he sitting down because he's bollocks? Was he sitting down because he's took a knock? These are things that we don't know the answers to, and we'll only find out on Thursday. I've got something to throw at you. We've got a Statman on, so let's talk a little bit of stats. Now, people say you can't paint pictures with stats. I disagree. I think if used correctly, stats help you to illustrate a point very well. They can be swung around one way or another, but I've picked out a few stats here for you, and some of them are expected goal stats. So I'm going to throw these at you, and I'm going to give you I'm going to prove, because let's face this, right? Manchester United currently sitting 5th in the table. Yeah. When Louis van Gaal was sacked, United was 5th in the table. So, has Jose... In fact, I'll ask you the question, and then I'll prove my answer to you. So I'm going to give you the chance to give me what you think. Has Jose Mourinho improved Manchester United?
Yes, 100%. I think the problem with Louis van Gaal's Manchester United is they fundamentally didn't do what a top 4 side should do, which is create chances. They are absolutely awful. They were ranked like 16th, 17th in the Premier League for creating chances. What Mourinho's done is he's gone the other way. They're creating a lot of chances, but they're not scoring these goals. If you combined LVG's conversion rate with this Manchester United team, they'd win the league. The problem with United is they're not taking the chances within the penalty area. They're ranked 2nd behind Liverpool in terms of numbers of shots, but in terms of conversion rate,
it's third. We're ranked 3rd for chance creation, 2nd in shots behind Tottenham. Liverpool are top in chances created.
So inside the penalty area, actually in the penalty, I think when I looked, it was United was 2nd behind Liverpool. And then it flipped down to the conversion rate inside that penalty area. It was 12.5%, which was the 4th worst. Which, if you flipped, the games that we drew, the 7 games we drew, all the rubbish we drew, the Burnleys, the West Hams, if you applied the average conversion rate in the Premier League, just the average, so the average of the 20 sides, the middle conversion rate, United are 2 points behind Chelsea. because the goals, obviously if you apply that conversion rate, they're having X amount of shots in the penalty area. This is very open, and it's probably not how you should use numbers. It's similar to expected goals, that you take in a massive population of data in something that's Premier League football that is quite a small sample of games. But again, on the global scale of it, if you apply that to United, they are doing a lot better. And it seems like the composure. On the flip side of that, you look at what Ibrahimovic has done this season, been brilliant, carried United in some games, but his conversion rate's at 14.6%, which again, I class the elite bracket, my own rankings of looking at data for a long time, between 15 and 25 is at the elite level. So you've got Zlatan in there that's at 14.65. Over Anthony Martial's career at United, that's just over nearly 2 seasons, he's at 18.5%.
Yeah,
so if you're applying,
difference.
Which is massively, that is like you're
probably about an extra 7 or 8, well, probably 6 or 7 goals.
So it's on, and it's in the line with someone like Antoine Griezmann. That's where it goes. That's where it jumps from someone that's misfiring, that's missed quite a lot of chances this season for United, to being someone that is consistently putting the ball in the back of the net, which opens up that question. Were United right to get Ibrahimovic? Should they have gone with someone like, Rashford, Martial through the middle? It's a big, interesting one. And again, I'd kind of argue, given this injury now for Ibra, MCL, ACL, I've done the ACL myself, and it's a bad injury. He's done both. That could be it. I'd argue now United potentially shouldn't be looking to sign Ibra on a new deal. But anyway, going back to your expected goals model, that's my take on Manchester United.
Right, well, I'm going to throw the stats at you anyway. I'm sure, Well, you've already answered saying that, yes, Mourinho has improved us. This is probably more for the opposition fans that are watching the channel, and for maybe some United fans that are having their doubts a little bit as well. So, under Louis van Gaal, the expected goals for. So, this is what people predict Manchester United are going to score as a rough basis across the course of the season. Under Louis van Gaal, we was at 1.18 goals. So just over a goal a game. Under Mourinho, we're at 1.56 goals. So actually, despite the draws, we are looking to score more goals, or we're expected to score, about a 0.4 of a goal more than we was under Louis van Gaal. The good one is the expected goals against. It was 0.94 against us under Louis van Gaal. It's now down to 0.68 under Jose Mourinho, and the difference there is being the goal difference. The expected goal difference was only 0.24 under Louis van Gaal. Hence, we saw several losses and quite a lot of draws and 1,000 nil-nils at half time. And it's 0.88 under Mourinho, which means that we should be winning, a hell of a lot more games than we are. Which is where the expected model falls down, because it can't predict someone having an off day or someone not scoring what their average should be.
That's the problem.
Like a Ibra.
It's like based on such a big number of data points that, again, you what you should do in your, not to go too nerdy here, but what you should be doing is you should be applying a Bayesian model to expected goals, which basically you're applying another distribution type on the expected goals. So, for example, for Manchester United's expected goals, what you should be applying is you should be applying the distribution of Ibrahimovic's chances and how he's taken them. So his conversion rate, Bayesian model, whether it's binomial or however, Poisson or however it's modelled, and you should be applying that to your expected goal model. Problem is that it's a little bit too short term, and everything in statistics that I've ever learned, it's all about the reason why big data works, and the reason why these models work is because it's all on this big scale. And unfortunately, Premier League seasons aren't that long in the grand scheme of things.
Prior career cut up to this point, his conversion rate was not far off double what he's been converting at Manchester United.
And again, looking at the numbers tell you one thing. You've got to look at the quality of chances that they're creating, the opposition, how close the players.
Well, anyway, let me finish on a broad stroke. So this is very broad strokes and not super nerdy anyway. But as you can see, shots that we was having under Louis van Gaal was having 11. We're talking 17 under Mourinho. So as you said earlier, that's almost a doubling of how many shots we're having under Jose Mourinho. The defence is better. We're conceding 8.9 shots per game prior to under Van Gaal. It was 10.8 shots per game. So when you add that in, and you add in that we've had the most passes completed in the final third, we're creating the third most chances, behind Liverpool. All of these things are building up to Manchester United being a real force. And I've been saying for a while that the undefeated thing means absolutely fuck all. What it means is that United are being hard to beat. And I think it's a good marker for us to say, yes, we're hard to beat going into next season, because there'll be tweaks and improvements. And I do think now that obviously we are going to look to a post-Ibrahimovic United. And actually, going back to your point, maybe we should have gone with Rashford, should have gone with Martial. At the start of the season, we didn't know if Rashford was going to be back in the academy or not, or if he was going to even be
part of the first team. The Martial one was an interesting one, right?
Martial was out in the Euros and didn't look great. I can understand why you didn't want to go for him. I can also understand why Jose wanted an ally in the dressing room, someone who knows him. And I think that might have been a massive thing. Someone else that's standing there saying, listen to this guy, he knows what the fuck he's talking about. Yeah. And without Ibrahimovic in the dressing room, we don't know how the buy-in from the rest of the squad might have gone down. So you not only bring in Jose Mourinho, you bring in Jose Mourinho and his staff, and then you bring in a guy who's a figurehead for the team and a leader of the team who instantly commands respect from the rest of the dressing room, who's saying, listen to this guy. And even if he was only brought in just to help the transition of Mourinho to be a respected manager and get the buy-in from the players, he was worth every penny of that fucking free transfer that we got from him.
I couldn't agree more with you. I just think in a hypothetical world, it'd be quite interesting just to see how United would be performing as well. I think Ibrahimovic has been fantastic for United. He's been the focal point. He's carried us in so many different games.
Just his finishing, it's not been there.
Would have the other players.
It's just been one of those days every day this year. Right, that will be the end of part one. We're going to do 2 parts though, so make sure if you're watching this one, the next one will be out very, very soon. Go and give Dave a follow on Twitter at Statman Dave, and also on YouTube as well. Go follow him, listen to him on iTunes and Acast. I think you're on your podcast, isn't it?
Yeah.
And all the rest of it. And if you are listening to this on iTunes, please go leave us a review and let us know what you think.